Hello students! Good day to all our listeners and viewers who are tuning in right now. Today is another episode of Learning and Fun here in School on Air. I'm your teacher host, Sir Kurt Maningo from La Filipina National High School. Today we'll explore another content in science about Mendel's experiment. So, sit back and relax. Are you now ready, students? Let us give the spotlight to Ma'am Jacqueline Kukal.
Hello, grade 8 students! Kumusta? Are you excited for another learning adventure? I know you do, so join me as I take you to another awesome learning discovery. I am your teacher on air, Teacher Jackie Kukal, as we discuss another lesson of your Science 8 on Mendel's experiment. But before we go on with our lesson, I would like you to get your self-learning module, pen, and paper so you can write all the things that you can learn from today's lesson. But before we start our lesson, let's review first the following words for you to recall your previous knowledge about the topic. Are you familiar with the following figures? I know you are. These are what we call genes. They are the ones responsible for our hereditary traits. Genes are the factors that controls the inheritance of a character. They contains all information to build up and pass genetic information. Anyways, why are genes important? A gene is a basic unit of heredity in a living organism. Genes came from our parents. We may inherit our physical traits and the likelihood of getting certain disease and conditions from our parents. What are these diseases? Example of this is high blood pressure, Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, diabetes, and even cancer. Genes are also important because they contain the data needed to build and maintain cells and pass genetic information to offspring. Now, since you already recall your previous knowledge about genes, let's continue our learning journey for today. I want you to meet Gregor Mendel. Who is Gregor Mendel? Gregor Mendel is a monk who lived in 1800s. He has a passion in botany. He realizes that the plants can be grown in large quantities and can be conveniently manipulated in laboratory. He studied the traits of pea plant. These are the 7 traits of garden peas. These are the traits that Mendel studied. Seed shape, round and wrinkled. Seed color, we have yellow and green. Pod shape, we have inflated and constricted. We have pod color, green and yellow. We have flower color, purple and white. Flower location, we have eggshell and terminal. And plant size, we have tall and short. In his experiment, he found out that each of these genes is made up of 2 alleles, which codes for phenotype and genotype. Phenotype. What do you mean by phenotype? Phenotype means physical appearance. These are observable traits such as height, eye color, and blood type. These are also expression of genetic codes. Now, try to observe the person sitting beside you. Can you tell me their phenotype? Wow! Great job! Now let's go to genotype. Genotype means different combination of alleles, the genetic code of individuals which are expressed in letters. This contains the genetic makeup of genes. Now these are examples of genotype. Tall represents big letter. T is equals to tall. Short represents small letter T equals short. Genotype can be expressed like this. Homogeneous tall, capital letter T. Homogeneous means having 2 identical alleles of a particular gene or genes. It can also be expressed as heterozygous tall, capital letter T and small letter t. Heterozygous means having 2 different alleles of a particular gene or genes. Genotype can be expressed like this. Homozygous, short, small letter t. Homozygous means it contains two short genes. Now, Mendel realizes that dominant allele, the ones being expressed or seen and which represent big letters, are expressed in both homozygous dominant or capital T or heterozygous dominant or capital letter T and small letter t. Mendel also realizes that recessive allele, which also means a hidden trait and can be represented by small letters, are expressed in only homozygous recessive or small letter t's. Now, phenotype versus genotype. This is an example of phenotype and genotype. Big letter B stands for genotype, purple flower stands for phenotype, small letter b stands for genotype, and white flower stands for phenotype. Now, genotype can be expressed in homozygous dominant or capital letter B's, which the color is purple. Heterozygous, which contains small letter b and big letter B, which has a phenotype of purple flower. Another is homozygous recessive, which contains small letter b, which has a color of white flower. Now, this is another example of genotype and phenotype. Phenotype, it has a purple flower or white flower. Genotype can be homozygous dominant or heterozygous dominant. It can also be homozygous recessive. Now, in Mendel's concept, Mendel's experiment with pea plant helped in the development of concepts to further understand genetics. He performed actual experiment with garden peas through cross-pollination. The flower of purebred tall pea plant pollinated in its short pea plant. The outcome is only one characteristic is expressed and the other one is hidden. Now, are you ready for more? I bet you are. So let's test what you have learned so far. Let's start. Now, for your assessment for today. Direction. To be familiar more about dominant and recessive traits, genotype and phenotype, you will also learn the appropriate symbols and letters used in the activities in genetics. You will be given 5 minutes to answer. Please answer honestly. Now, I want you to make a table that contains 6 columns. The first column is for pea plant trait, second column is for the allele, third column is for dominant and recessive, fourth column is for homozygous, fifth column is for heterozygous, and last column for phenotype. Fill in the blank spaces with your answers. I will give you 2 examples and the rest of the assessment you will answer honestly. For pea plant trait, let's have tall. Allele is capital letter T, which is dominant. Homozygous, which is capital letter T's. Heterozygous, which is capital letter T and small letter t. And the phenotype is tall. Another example is short. We have small letter t for the allele, which is recessive. Homozygous, 2 small letter t's. Heterozygous, none. And the phenotype is short. Now you will answer number 1, which is brown seed, and allele is letter R, capital letter R. Number 2, wrinkled seed, which is small letter r. Number 3, yellow seed, which is big letter Y. Number 4, green seed, which is small letter y. And number 5, eggshell flower, which is big letter A. Now, your time starts now. Now, let's find out if all your answers are correct. The answers. Number 1, round seed with an allele of capital letter R, dominant. Homozygous, which contains two capital letter R, heterozygous, which contains big letter R and small letter r, and the phenotype is round seed. Number 2, wrinkled seed with an allele of small letter r, which is recessive, and homozygous, which contains two small letter r, and the phenotype is wrinkled seed. Number 3, yellow seed, which contains capital letter Y for the allele, which is dominant, homozygous, which contains two big letter Y, and heterozygous, which contains big letter Y and small letter y, which contains the phenotype of yellow seed. Number 4, green seed, small letter y, recessive, homozygous, which contains two small letter y, and heterozygous, which contains capital letter Y and small letter y, which contains the phenotype of yellow seed. The last but not the least, number 5, eggshell flower, which contains an allele of big letter A, dominant, homozygous, which contains two capital letter A, and heterozygous, which contains capital letter A and small letter a, and the phenotype is eggshell flower. Wow! Awesome job, everyone! You did great! Now, this ends my lesson, but before that, don't forget to study in advance about classification of living organism. Thank you so much, viewers and listeners! I'm your teacher, broadcaster, Teacher Jackie Cocal, saying kung walang knowledge, walang power. Paalam!
Thank you so much, Ma'am Jackie, for a very interactive discussion that you have with us today. I'm sure that the students learn a lot from your lesson. And that's it, students. We finished another Science 8 lesson, focusing on Mendel's experiment. I hope you take note of the important information and you learned something new today. Always remember that knowledge is power. Again, this has been your teacher host, Sir Kurt, wishing you all have a good day. Stay safe, everyone.